Custer had a plan, the captain of the Titanic had a plan, and the Woods family had a plan. If the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, it's important for that step to be in the right direction. The 3 plans mentioned above all failed that crucial test. Okay, Custer's first step was to assume that the Sioux were inherently incapable of battle strategy. That step cost more than 200 men their lives. The captain of the Titanic believed the ship was unsinkable. That belief caused the greatest maritime disaster in modern history. There, but for the grace of God, go up. Being but a boy at the time, I cannot say for sure what stars aligned to cause this trip. I do know that to this day, I hold myself totally responsible for the suffering that took place that week. You see, at least in my mind, this trip was my idea, brilliantly conceived by me and my best friend, J.D. Noland. I, by the sheer force of my 11-year-old will, overrode all adult concerns and sent 2 families careening into catastrophe. The first day found us cheerfully setting up the tents in a steady rain. My father, due to no small measure of skill and the fact that it was a weekday, had found us an excellent campsite at Table Rock Lake. For posterity, I will note that back in those days, during the week, you could pretty much pick whatever campsite you wanted. Hopes were high and screams of "keep away from the lake during a rainstorm" were not enough to dampen my enthusiasm. It doesn't get much, get it? Rainstorm, dampen. It doesn't get much better than this. So readers who are faint of heart are urged to turn back now. Once inside the tents, it probably took only 2 hours and 38 threads to get us all into bed. Lying in a tent with the rain falling always used to puzzle me. I knew that when I was out in the rain, my clothes soaked right through, and I could not understand why the tent did not react the same way. I had been told probably 100 times not to touch the sides of the roof of the tent when it was raining, but that was the old tent, not the new water-resistant blue tent. So I poked it. A water droplet started to form. That didn't seem right to me, so I did it again. A second drip appeared. A trend can't really be established with less than 3 examples, so once more for science, I ran my finger along the roof. No doubt about it, this tent was defective. The angry consumer in me rising, I started to wake my father so he too could witness the failure of this product. I imagined us shaking our collective heads and cursing the so-and-sos who would dare sell such a flimsy product. Then I thought, well, Dad looks really quite peaceful sleeping there, and a shock like this upon waking might actually be harmful. To some extent. Besides, after trading places with one of my sleeping sisters, I could see there was no real harm done. On the second day, God's water warning unheeded came our trial by fire. Breakfast by the lake, what could be more idyllic? The smell of fried potatoes and strong coffee, the sound of chirruping crickets, and the crackle of sizzling bacon compete in the mottled dawn with the piercing shriek of a toddler who was falling into the flames. With Sandy's blisters bandaged and the sleeping bags hung out to dry, it was time for the fathers and the older children to head out and experience the dangers of the lake. At the campsite, the mothers are now free to clear and clean the dishes and pans, arrange the 2 families' belongings, plan the day's meals, watch the babies, and relax in a couple of wobbly lawn chairs to battle the heat, the humidity, and the thousands of insects. Out on the lake, 2 boats impersonating frying pans are tied up to a dead tree sticking out of the water not 20 feet from the shore. My father is very interested in 3 aspects of the fishing hook on this trip: dodging them, baiting them, and unsnagging them. As a group, my sisters and I could break and tangle more lines, snag more rocks and trees, straighten and lose more hooks, and waste more bait than green peas. This expedition was notable for the creation of a new species. I had never heard of the walking catfish until after this trip. Some months later, they appeared in Florida, having apparently walked all the way from Table Rock. I believe the violent whipping of our fishing poles on the water scared them more than the thought of breathing air. The girls and I did stop fishing from time to time, long enough to fight with each other, spill a can of pop, or as soon as Dad would hook a crappie, complain that we had to go to the bathroom. Dad was a patient and wise man. After this day, he decreed that fishing in the heat was senseless and therefore should be done at night when the children were asleep. It was also decided that Donald, Keith, J.D., and I were old enough to go out in the boat by ourselves. I'm sure this was a good way to cut down the teasing and bickering, but ultimately it led to days 3 and 4. Day 3 was a very exciting day for me. At long last, I was going to get to pilot a boat by myself. After years of watching Dad run that old 7.5 horse Johnson and hundreds of hours of practice with Dad beside me, it was mine, all mine. I can't remember a day when the sun shone more brightly, or the sky was more blue, the lapping of the water on the shore was a siren song that urged me, faster, faster, get to the boat. I swear my legs grew by an inch with each manly stride. As I reached the dock, I towered over nature. My motor and I combined with a new Poseidon. It was a great day to be alive. It's hard to believe that less than 20 minutes later, I would wish I were dead. J.D. and I climbed into the boat, pushed off the boat ramp, and started the engine. We ran out only about 200 yards from shore, and there in front of all the people unloading their boats and our mothers, we opened that baby up. Around and around in circles we ran, bouncing higher and higher off the wake we were creating. JD's mother began shouting, "You boys quit cutting those didos out there." We laughed. The mere threat of punishment could not stop us. We were immortal. Loretta ran down to the water's edge and began screeching, "Stop cutting those didos!" I revved the motor. The more she screamed, the more we laughed, and the faster we went until the engine sputtered and died. Now, in that awful silence, Loretta's heartbeat cry resonated all too well. All activity on the ramp stopped. Out of nowhere, hundreds of people had flocked to this spot to see what would happen next. All eyes were on me as I tried to restart the motor. Where it had purred under my hand before, it now sputtered out of line. Furiously, I pulled on the starter rope. Frantically, JD pumped the gas. With each pull, Loretta shrieked, "You boys get in here this minute! I told you not to cut those didos!" And the unkindest cut of all, I knew those boys were too little to be out in that boat by themselves. The way sound travels on water, I knew that even people down at the marina would get a good chuckle out of this service. I could just imagine going in to buy a candy bar. The lady behind the counter sees me and smiles real big. "Been cutting any didos lately, little boy?" She says, and flips on the marina PA system. "That dido cutting boy's in here," she laughs. "Yeah, he's the one with the baby Ruth in his hand." My face turns sunburned red as the boat pulls up beside us and tows us in like a pack mule. My humiliation complete. In an effort to get as far away from other humans as possible, JD and I got in the boat with Donald Keith, and to the far end of the lake we went. We found a nice shady spot, and 2 Dr. Peppers later, I was my old self. We tied up to a tree and decided to go for a swim. JD laid his glasses on the boat cushion. 3 dives later, Donald Keith hit that boat cushion, and JD's glasses did a reverse 4.5 into the lake. This wouldn't have been too big of a problem, except tomorrow was day 4, so Dollar City. Tracy and JD were not the best of friends. They were the same age, lived in the same neighborhood, went to the same school, and they were of the opposite sex. This is enough to make any 2 9-year-olds antagonists, even though I relished the twin roles of peacemaker and facilitator.
That's a lie. That's the lie, it is.
It seemed nothing I tried could ever bridge this divide. Spending a week together hadn't exactly worked its magic either. Silver Dollar City, a stage of staged gunfighting fame, was about to witness another showdown. Since JD had lost his glasses, it was decided that Tracy should share hers. This, on the surface, seemed to make sense. Their prescriptions were about the same, somewhere between bat and mole, and JD had forgotten to bring his spare pair. In hindsight, this arrangement was bound to cause some hard feelings. First, I'm told that a pair of glasses are a pretty personal item. Asking to borrow them was somewhat like, "Excuse me, but can I use your set of dentures? Mine just don't seem to be working well." This can be exacerbated if the person doing the lending has only recently experienced the joy of vision. Add this to the fact that Tracy picked her specs to be flattering her particular face and not that of a 9-year-old boy who was torn between looking like a fool or not looking at all. Of course, as soon as he saw hesitation on Tracy's part, he had to act. And as soon as she saw that he wanted him, she was going to fight to the death to keep him. This turned into a day-long battle requiring constant intervention by all parents, serving to distract us from all the fun at hand. I believe it also caused some consternation among the performers. When we were watching, nothing seemed to go quite right. I can still hear that craftsman howling, his footing placed in molten glass as they hauled him away. Add to that the joy of keeping track of 7 children in blistering heat, and I'm sure that Mom and Dad will say that this was their best vacation ever. And to think they owe it all to me.